Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to House Talk. I am your host, Dr. Lauren D. Pitts. My guest co-hosts tonight, Regina Williams and Carolyn Peterson, are back to help me facilitate what we know will be an insightful discussion. Regina and Carolyn, welcome back to House Talk.
Welcome. It's great to be back, Lauren. I'm so excited to be back for the fourth week, actually, right?
Yes.
Great.
Right,
So
and thank you for having me back. I had a little technical difficulty last week, but I'm here tonight.
Yes, indeed, and I am excited about it. Additionally, I am truly honored to welcome to House Talk for the first time fellowship-trained breast cancer oncologist, Dr. Monique Gary. Dr. Gary, I know your schedule is insane, but thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us tonight.
It has truly been my privilege. I'm so glad to be included tonight. How are you?
And look, scrambling and running as usual, but it's okay anyhow. I'm excited about tonight's show. We also have joining us tonight, we've got a couple of nurses and other medical professions on the show with us tonight. We have Victoria Davis, Tracy Wells-Huggins. Tracy, Victoria, welcome to House Talk.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm glad to be back. Woo. Hey, Tracy. Hi, how are you? I'm good.
So the bios of these amazing women are available on each of our social media platforms, and the slideshow that would normally be run during the show. As Carolyn stated, we had technical difficulties, so we'll make sure that listeners all across the world have these amazing bios so that you can see these tremendous women that are pouring into you and that are so committed to educating, empowering, and liberating not just women, but people in general. But tonight, we're focusing on the women. So with that, Carolyn, we'll give it to you.
Thank you. These are just some things I want us to start to think about as we go through our show tonight, all of our listeners. So, have you or your loved one visited your primary care physician for an actual head-to-toe physical within the last 12 months? Did you ask some probing questions about your health while you were there? Or what about the things we take for granted? Do you know your blood type, your normal blood pressure range? Or how about your A1C, cholesterol level, and HIV/AIDS status? I'm betting money many of our listeners answered no to these questions, and as a result, it's a strong possibility that you were one of the many black women in this country neglecting her health in a major way. Having suffered many of her own health choices, maintaining one's health is extremely important to Dr. Pitts. For our regular listeners and those new to House Talk, this month, Dr. Pitts continues addressing the major topics impacting women, using this platform to communicate solution-focused tools that educate, empower, and liberate you, our listeners.
Right. And furthermore, recent reports have suggested that HIV rates among African American women are rising at a frightening pace. It's also true that African Americans have the largest health risks when compared to other minorities, including more disease, disability, and early death. Headlines like these are painting a grim picture of our health as women of color. You're definitely going to want to take notes tonight, and by the time the show's over, I'll bet you'll be setting a reminder to call in the morning and make your doctor's appointment. I know I need to. You don't even want to know what I've been going through today. Tonight, we're delving into women's health and black women's health disparities. So we really want you to join the discussion, ladies and listeners out there. Ask a question or share a comment. So call us live at 515-605-9744. That number is 515-605-9744. 9744.
So I want to kick off our show with some stats. Listeners, did you know that almost 60% of Black women are obese compared to 32% of white women and 41% of Hispanic women? The trend is increasing Black women's life expectancy and increasing our chance of developing a host of ailments, including diabetes, vascular disease, and arthritis. Dr. Karen, how do we, Black women, stay healthy in a community that once to kick us off, I really want to hear from each of you and to really chime in, whether it's based on your professional experience in the medical profession, or perhaps some health crises of your own that you've had that you're willing to share with our listeners. So, Dr. Gary.
Hi there, it's Dr. Gary. Lauren, I'm going to ask you to restate that question briefly for me. You were breaking up just a little bit. And
Okay,
I think your question was about how my health experiences have shaped my profession, or?
Well, the question was, how do we as Black women stay healthy in a community that socializes heavily around food?
I love that question. And the answer is, I think there's myriad ways to do that. One, we can socialize around food and health. We can make our food healthy, and we can continue the socialization of that, because here's what's really important. So in breast cancer, for example, African American women are 40 times more likely to die from our disease. We're more likely to be diagnosed later stage. We're more likely to be diagnosed at a younger age. And stage for stage, we just don't do as well. And so I think there's some room for us to mobilize around prevention, and that can be a social thing. So when I talk to my patients, I tell them, listen, mammograms come but once a year if we're lucky, and it's important to maybe take 3, 4, 5 friends with you, and you can make it a social event. So if you and your friends are all getting your mammograms, and these may be friends that you only see once a year, maybe they're your high school buddies or your college girlfriends, but you meet up at this appointed time, and you're accountable to each other for your health and for your wellness and for this one preventive practice, and then go for pedicures, and then go out for salads, and then make it a social event. And that way we're all accountable in a way that is not, there's less anxiety, there's less pressure. We can be a support if any of us find something or we're called back. We got our girls that we can lean on. And so I think there's room within the way in which we socialize to incorporate our health practices and make them really best practices. And we can bring the whole community along with us. And we should do that.
I like that. That's powerful. I will tell you, it never once crossed my mind to get together socially based around our health needs. Ladies, what do you think about that?
Tracy, I think this would be a good time to talk about some of the things that you've been doing over the last couple of months with regard to women and women's health, and how you were facilitating something like that.
Yes, so the nurse in me is always thinking about the holistic needs of the individual, and then how that affects the larger world around them, including proximity to community and the gender as well. And so one of the things that I've been doing is hosting women's events where we have conversations about what it's like to be them, what it takes to be them, and also what do they need to be a more healthy, holistic them. And I think that, thinking about the socialization question that was raised, it's really been historically contextualized for us to have food and to eat, drink, and be merry. And because we socialized around that, I think it provides a tremendous opportunity for us to, as the doctor already stated, to switch that narrative around a little bit so that the message is much more holistically centered and focused. People've got to be able to see that there's no harm in eating fresh vegetables, that we don't have to have fried chicken every time we get together. And sometimes It's about the mindset shift that needs to take place. Many of us have also neglected ourselves for such a long period of time that our health has not been our priority. Taking care of everyone else around us has been. So I love the idea of making sure that, hey, you have a sister circle, go and get that mammogram. I'm going to have to borrow that, Doc. That was fantastic.
Wasn't that good? That was good.
Yes.
Yeah, I can say for myself.
I want to chime in on that. This is Dr. Gary again. And I love what you said about a couple things. One, you talk about, our holistic approach to our health. And, food is medicine is something that comes from the continent. That's part of who we are as a people. And I think it's important to reclaim that aspect of our narrative because we know that the food that we eat definitely contributes to either our health or lack thereof. And so there's room in our cooking and in our creative processes to make sure that we incorporate foods that are high in antioxidants, to make sure that we incorporate foods that are anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer. And I spend a lot of time talking with patients about these things because I find that they're more receptive to medicine when they know that I'm not trying to give them medicine as an alternative to a healthy lifestyle and to diet and lots of other things, The other thing that we touched on that was so important is that we take on these personas and not only take on, but they're thrust upon us that we are the primary caretakers. We're the breadwinners many times, and we're the people who are responsible for keeping all the balls in the air. And, I tell patients all the time, listen, stress will kill you faster than breast cancer will, believe it or not. Stress will take you out of this world. And as we seek to be these superwomen, as we seek to make sure that we honor our commitment to our family and to our responsibilities, to our finances and all these things, that we prioritize our health. We have to do that because if we're not healthy, we can't do anything for anybody.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to find out a little bit because, Vicki, I'm going to go ahead and just throw you under the bus here, but in a good way. I wanted to highlight that Vicki and colleagues are sitting down and doing some phenomenal work with mothers that are in Delaware.
She's really breaking up.
Lauren, you're breaking up. I can't hear anything you're saying.
Right. I can hear it all.
John, he's like, can you hear that?
No.
No, not at all.
Okay, so go ahead and let me from a medium, and then I'll come back.
What did she say?
I have no
Well,
idea.
I think she wants
Carolyn,
to
I
tell us
think you
about
had
it.
a thought.
You want us to just kind of keep going? So,
Hello?
hello?
Mm-hmm. Carolyn?
Okay, yeah. So, and this actually was really a good segue because, research shows that stressful life events are linked to higher incidence of heart attack and stroke and other types of cardiovascular disease in African American women. So, hopefully you guys can kind of shed some light, on how does a black woman get help in a society that has the ideal that African American women are indestructible. We're super women expected to move heaven and earth and, to be able to solve every problem. How do we take care of ourselves with that much stress and the weight put on our shoulders?
Wow. That's not a loaded question.
Well,
I know.
Do I get to chime in on that one because that's a tough answer coming from somebody who is I'm director of a cancer program. I'm a surgeon. I am active in my community. I play a couple instruments. I do all these things, and there is a bit of a personal badge of honor associated with being every woman. And so I think the first step, at least for me, because I'm going to speak for myself personally, because this is a pot kettle black situation here, is that we have to acknowledge that, you know what, if I don't eat well, my metabolism will not do well. I may likely gain weight or I may lose weight for the wrong reasons. I may have poor energy. I may have poor sleep habits. It affects my concentration. And I'm not performing my best. I'm not giving my best self to others when I don't take care of myself. And so for me, sometimes taking care of self has to take the form of taking care of others because I take that so seriously. And as black women, we do that, right? So in order for me to take better care of others, I must then take care of myself. And so acknowledging my the fact that I'm not infallible, and the fact that, yes, I perhaps do need help, whether it is physical help, whether it is mental help, and mental health, whether it is through getting adequate rest, and reinforcing that narrative, one, for myself, but if not for myself, then for others, for my patients, and for all these balls that I got up in the air right now. And so I think that there's two ways we can come at it. If you're not able to come at it from that place of self-love that says me first, put my mask on so I can save others, then it comes from the place of I can't do all the things I need to do for these people who are depending upon me if I don't care for myself. And then we can break down the ways in which we need to care for ourselves. So we first have to acknowledge that we can't do it all, and that someone can help us, and someone should help us, and it's okay to need help. And it's not a sign of weakness. You know, we think vulnerability means that we're going to come undone. And really true strength means that we can be vulnerable and nothing can break us, because no matter what happens, we are unbreakable. And I think tapping into that strength through sister circles, through meditation, through prayer, through whatever the ways and whatever the things are, we need to make that space safe and okay, and give ourselves license to be in those spaces where we're vulnerable and where our wounds are open and where we're hurt, and allow ourselves to be hungry and be fed and be nurtured. And so there's a little bit of introspection and some time that we need to spend with ourselves so that we can get to those places.
Awesome, awesome. Vicki, can you speak to the work that you and Cindy Townsend are doing with expectant mothers in Delaware?
Well, we just talk to them, about setting goals, trying to get from where they are to where they want to be, their purpose, their vision in their life, establishing realistic goals and the steps that you have to take to, get to where you want to be. And sometimes you have to go back, rearrange them, make them work for where you are right now. Being healthy, knowing your body, going to your appointments, trying not to be stressed, depressed, because, the situation that they're living in, sometimes can be stressful. We, go to a shelter, and you have to just kind of embrace where you are and be thankful that it's things there, and be prayerful that, it's just for a situation, but it could be a lot worse.
I hear you. All right, listeners, you are listening to House Talk with Dr. Lauren D. Pitts. And listeners, we want you to join the discussion. So call in and share your comments or ask a question. I want to give you the numbers: 515-605-9744. Again, the number is 515-605-9744. We're live on Blog Talk Radio. Okay.
Can you all hear me yet?
I'm sorry?
One other thing.
Go ahead.
This is Vicki. I just wanted to add something, too. When we do go to the doctors, kind of be prepared. Have your questions written down. Do your research. Don't let the doctor rush in and out of seeing you. You're paying to be there. You're his patient, their client, however you want to put it. Get your questions answered. If you don't feel like that doctor is attentive to you, then you find someone else. But that's your time. Your body is your health. You get your information and you go there ready, prepared with your questions, and get them answered. Let that doctor focus on you for the time that you're there.
I love that. And I love hearing, I never mind when patients, one, bring family members, and two, bring questions, because it really does help the dialogue along. But also, I think we have to prepare ourselves to be receptive for the answers. If we know that we are overweight, if we know we have a history of these things, if we know that there might be, like we have to be prepared for that conversation so that we can do what we need to do to get to a better and healthier state. And I see a lot of patients who come, and we are very suspicious of the medical profession, and I get it. I come from a family of people who don't like doctors either. I tell my patients if I didn't work in a hospital, I might never see a doctor sometimes and I know because I know what historically it means to us and for us. And we sit in these spaces where people who talk over us and don't explain things to us. So one, I will always partner with patients. You will never leave not understanding exactly what's going on with you and feeling partnered, but also feeling educated. And so opening yourself to that education, even if it perhaps does include medicine. Medicine is not the only option, but sometimes it's a bridge to wellness. Sometimes we take medicine as a way to get our bodies to a healthier state so that we can sustain through our lifestyle, because sometimes things get a little far gone. We talk about blood sugar. We talk about cholesterol. There are things we can do naturally, absolutely. And I want to explore those with patients through our diet, through our herbs, through lots of different ways. But there are some times when we maybe do need some medicine, and we want to make sure that that we're open-minded as we approach our physicians so we can have that conversation that goes both ways.
Yeah, this is Dr. Pitts.
You're still breaking up.
I don't know why. Okay. I'm gonna share some information breaking up. Dr. Some key things that sort of ignited. She talked about weight, and she talked about how we deal with food and what have you. At 5'2", I'm the heaviest that I've ever been in my life. I weigh 180 pounds, and I'm sick about it because even though my mate is not, I'm like, oh my God, I'm sure to be heavy. And also
Lauren, not getting any of it.
No.
Yeah, we can't hear any of it.
No, I got that she was 180 pounds and that she was sick of something.
Right.
That was what I heard. But I wonder if it has to do with maybe some of the messages that she's getting from the health profession about body image and about what is a normal and a healthy body weight. To help, there's a lot of misinformation, I think, for women of color, especially for African American women and for women who are not of Caucasian descent, about what body averages, how bodies should look and how bodies should feel. And I think that there's room for us to explore, even in what we consider obesity and high BMI and other things, that we can be healthy, we can be active, we can still run, we can do yoga, we can do lots of things and not conform to a certain image of what healthy is. And so being careful with your physicians and with yourself and being loving with yourself about your health and about your health journey and being honest with yourself is really important, because just because you got hips, just because you have, a thick waist, just because we are not a naturally small framed people doesn't mean that we're not healthy, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't explore things like yoga and Pilates and swimming and all of the different things that we sometimes think are reserved for people who are of a certain body type. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can own that thickness and we can still be healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that's been my thing. I'm 49. Well, I'll be 49 in October, and so I've decided that I'm getting fit for 50. So by January of 2020, my goal is to be healthy. I'm going to get to a point where I'm eating clean. I have high blood pressure, and and then I have issues with my joints, and I'm heavy. But I started my weight loss journey several times, but this time I said, I'm serious. I'm walking more. I'm moving more. My sister can attest to, I have more energy. I'm in a little group of people. We kind of support each other. And, you know, I'm down 30 pounds since March. And so that to me is a big thing.
You better
like
do it. I love it.
Right. Like one of my biggest feats is that my pants, and Vicki, you know, my pants now come all the way up over my butt. It's not, you know, and that has been like such a milestone for me because I haven't had that in quite a long time. And it seems like something so minor, and I didn't even realize how much it bothered me until now. My clothes fit like I feel like they should fit, and you know, I don't have that big gap in the back, and you know, so I just that's a thing for me now. I have to really just stay on this path because you know people suggest getting weight loss surgery. I'm scared to death of weight loss surgery because I feel like I need to be able to do it and sustain it. I don't want to just do it and then, you know, the easy way, but I didn't put the work in because I tend to believe that when you work hard for something, you're going to work that much harder to keep it. And, you know, and so weight loss to me is something that, you know, I've decided that I have got to get serious about. And, you know, I have a lot of support, and which I think is the biggest thing, too, is people cheer you on. You know, we cheer each other on. You know, 2 pounds is something that we celebrate for one another because it's a struggle. It is a struggle, but, you know, I don't want to be on medication.
I love that you said, one, that you celebrate yourself. And it is a struggle because there's a lot of quick fixes, or at least we think there is. And bariatric surgery can be a bridge to wellness and get some people off of diabetes meds. Number one cure right now, as we talk about cure for diabetes, the quickest cure is weight loss surgery. Does that mean it's for everybody? No, because you lose nutrition and your hair thins and you have a lot of nutritional and absorption issues because you rearrange your intestines. So it's not the best answer at all. But, you know, what I hear you saying, though, is that you're speaking lovingly to yourself and that you're celebrating your easy wins. And, like, that's the thing. Like, who says nice things to you? Who says nice things about you? We walk by the mirror and we look at ourselves and we pick ourselves apart. And we go out in this world and this world picks ourselves apart. And health really starts there. It starts right there with the seed that says, you know what, I'm all right with me, and today I'm going to try again. Last night I had ice cream. Last night I drank too many glasses of wine. But you know what? Today is a new day. Today I'm going to get my water in. Today I'm going to get my steps in. Like that self-talk is truly the beginning of wellness and the beginning of health. And that's the place that we got to get to because that means no matter what happens at the end of the day, tomorrow's a new day and we can start over and we can make it better, you know? And so I love that you're doing that with yourself. Like that's such a sweet place to be in.
Yeah, it feels really good. It really, I can tell you, I've seen a big difference in myself, and you know, in Tracy's woman's sister circle, I'm going to tell you, it really does something for us. That first one was so powerful. I mean, and you never know how much you need it until you let it out, and you're like, where have you been all my life, Tracy? You know, like it was really awesome. I mean, things that were shared and people were able to kind of just let go. You know, it's really awesome, and we need that. We need to know that we're not alone in some of these situations, and people have come out and they have been able to just surpass things they ever thought they would be able to do. So,
you know, right. About all of this is that you know, our need to be in community with one another has been suppressed for such a long time, especially among African American women, right? Because we're taught you can't have a woman as your best friend because she'll steal your man. We have all these misnomers about one another that we actually accept as a truth, and it is not always the truth. You need to be able to have the connectivity with one another. And so I don't want to get all deep and philosophical, although I could, but the reality is the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he, or so is he to become. And so everything, our health, our mindset about our health needs to begin with our thinking, too. We sometimes forget the mental aspect that goes in because you can lose all the weight in the world. And if you are still broken inside and still see yourself in a maladaptive way, then you really and truly have not gotten full circle. in your healing journey. And healing is indeed a journey. And one of the things the doctor said that I really like, and Regina, you'll know this resonates with us because of, shout out to Parents Anonymous of New Jersey and Incorporated, asking for help is a sign of strength. To know that you're having an issue and not ask for help is allowing yourself to remain in a cycle of detriment to yourself. And if you're not good for you, you're not going to be good for anybody else. And one other thing I'll say before I back up and let you ladies come on and give me some more of this good stuff is back in October I created a character, and her name is Sister Super, Super Sister. And I have a cake we bring to the meeting. And at our very first gathering, each of the women in the room had to hold on to the cake while they shared a bit of themselves. Because one of the things that we want to invite women to do is to take off the mask and take off the cape and just be. We have to learn how to not be ashamed of shedding and allowing vulnerabilities to be shared with each other. You know, hey, I'm struggling in this area. This is what I need you to pray for me about. This is what I really need to offload today. And it's just been incredibly powerful and incredibly helpful, because we do have to move heaven and earth a lot of times in our daily lives. And people do expect us to solve each and every problem for each and every person that we are in contact with. There's not one of us that doesn't wear more than one hat, I am certain. And because of that, self-care is so important. It can no longer be denied because we are dying from not caring for ourselves properly.
You're right about it.
Let me chime in on that. Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to talk about the fact that we're dying for not caring for ourselves, because there's a saying that I like, and I like to bring it up in spaces like this. It says we're only as sick as the secrets we keep, and I think it's a good time to talk about the stigma associated with discussing a couple things in our communities. And one is our financial health, and two is our physical health. We don't talk about those things, and those are the two things that we probably need to talk about the most. Because when you talk about cancer prevention and cancer screening, everything right now is going towards discussing who should get what imaging based on your level of risk. Well, your level of risk is assigned not just by your age and your race, but by your family history. And if you don't know your family history, you don't know what you're at risk for. And you may not be getting the appropriate screening. So, for example, I run a high-risk program for breast cancer, for ovarian and uterine cancer. People come to me, and they don't know if they have ovarian or uterine or cervical cancer in their families because nobody talks about it. It's just down there. We know Nana died of something, and she had a surgery, and we don't know what it was because we're ashamed of it. And the time for that is over, because our people are perishing. And so we have to really have these uncomfortable conversations with our family members, and we get together and we break bread and we laugh and we joke. But can we have a serious talk real quick? Just like we do our family tree, can we do our health tree for our family and see who died of heart disease, who had diabetes, who had cancer, and what kinds and what ages? And we got to get into that stuff because it affects our screening that we should get. It affects our children. And, we find out later afterwards that so-and-so had such and such. Oh, your grandmother had that. Well, wait a minute. Had I known, I would have been screened for it. I would have been getting more pap smears. I would have been getting more colonoscopies. And so we got to have those tough conversations, and it starts with our generation.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right. I was just getting ready to ask Dr. Gary, to be able to speak to the appropriate timing for mammograms and things of that nature, and you just walked right into it. When should we start that?
We're in sync here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the guidelines for breast cancer especially, the guidelines have changed, and they're saying that now women and the Society of Breast Surgeons, the doctors who take care of breast cancer, we all agree that women should start at age 40. So 40 is the average age. If you look at certain other guidelines, they may say 45. I don't buy that. I think it's really important because, a quarter of my patients are under the age of 40 even. So whether or not we should be starting sooner, age 40 for average risk. You got no family members with cancer. If you have family members with breast cancer, you should start 10 years younger than the youngest person in your family. So if your mother had breast cancer at 45, you start at 35. 10 years younger than the youngest person. If dad had colon cancer at 50, you start at 40.
Oh, wow.
And then we should go annually. We got to learn to do a self-breast exam, and we have to know where the lumps are and what we feel, because we don't do it because we're scared. We feel lumps everywhere. Every month we feel lumps. Well, breasts are kind of lumpy. They're sort of like pizza dough, and the lumps should be soft. And if you feel hard lumps like popcorn kernels or frozen peas, those are things you should get checked out and not be afraid to. But if you feel lumps every month, draw a little diagram. I started making a little template. I'm going to have to publish it in a book. I'm going to sell it one day. But make a diagram or take a selfie and put a dot where you feel a lump, so that 30 days later when you go back to do your breast exam, you know where the lump was that you felt the month before, because most of the lumps we feel are normal, and they're the same on both sides.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a caller waiting in queue. Welcome to House Talk. What's your question or comment? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, welcome to House Talk. How are you?
I'm fine. This is Teresa. I actually would like to address, the first thing is the issue about the family history. Now, I'm a recent colon cancer survivor. I had surgery back in December of 2017 was my first surgery. I've had 3 surgeries since then. And I didn't know beforehand, the main thing that family members spoke about was, the diabetes and the high blood pressure and high cholesterol, which both of my parents had. My paternal grandparents had the diabetes and the high blood pressure. I'm not sure about my maternal grandparents. But after the fact, it was like when I was diagnosed with colon cancer, one of my aunts was saying, oh, well, our great aunt so-and-so had that. That's not what she died of, but she had it. She had, she didn't say what type of treatment or surgery that she had. And then another cousin, a distant cousin, said, oh, well, that's what her father had, and maybe someone else in the family. And it was just like things were just starting to, red flags were going up and, red lights flashing. Like, oh, I didn't know that had this information beforehand. Maybe if I had, I don't know if it would have made me go get checked out sooner. I did have a colonoscopy many years ago, when they thought that I had a stomach ailment, which turns out I didn't at that time. But then I never had one until I was anemic, which I've been chronically anemic for most of my adult life. When I got checked out, had the upper scope and the colonoscopy, that's when they couldn't even complete the colonoscopy because they couldn't get past the tumor. So it is very important for us to know what our family, maternal and paternal history is, and maybe even a couple of several generations prior to, so that we know that what we're up against, besides the prevalent, like the diabetes and the high blood pressure or heart disease, because there are so many other things out there that we need to be aware of. And if it's not brought up, talked about, I don't know why folks of color have such a stigma about, speaking, about things that can kill us. But in order to prevent those things, we have to discuss it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, powerful cosign. Yes, this is great information. And so, how are you doing now?
I'm doing great. Yesterday I went for my 6-month checkup, and I'm still, my blood work. The first time I went, my 3-month checkup, I had scans and blood work. Everything was fine. All of my numbers were great. Scan showed nothing, because I did have a part of my liver removed as well. I first had the what do you call it? The colorectal surgery. Had the largest tumor removed, and I had colon cancer cells. I had 2 spots on my liver, and that portion of my liver was removed in April of last year. And then the first surgery I had, trying to think of it because my mind went blank. When I had the colorectal surgery, I had the bag, the ostomy. I had an ostomy bag. That was the last surgery last September. So April 17th was when I had the surgery. So it's a year, a little over a year since then. But when I went yesterday, my blood work was clear. Praise God. Still, I go back in 3 more months to repeat the scan and blood work. So I'm just grateful to God for each and every day that I have. I've even talked to my children and will continue to talk to them about, because my eldest 2 are 31. So they need to know, since I've had it and been diagnosed, and it is in the paternal side of my family, that they should, get their scans. I feel younger now. I'm praying that they will. I'm not sure, since they're 31, what it would be suggested to them, because now it's like, most of us they're not going to the doctors for preventative care. They just go to the doctors when they're sick. So with them being 31, what is the suggestion for them to, since I had colon cancer, for them to go and to get a colonoscopy for like a baseline?
I can speak to that. And let me just first say I'm excited for you and I'm thankful for you. And I'm so glad that you're here with us to be able to share this testimony, because it's powerful.
Yes, praise God.
And it's something that more of us need to hear. And there's a couple touch points. And the first one is that if there are multiple members of your family with colon cancer, with uterine cancer, with other cancers, on either the paternal, on the dad's side, or the mom's side, you want to sit down and talk to a doctor about that, because your children may meet criteria, and you might meet criteria for genetic testing to look for changes in your genes that predispose you to getting this. Because if you have changes in your genes, like mutations, then you should be getting screened even more aggressively. So really go through the family tree very carefully. But if there isn't a gene trait or hereditary mutation that they inherited or that you inherited, then they should start 10 years younger than the youngest person. And, and knowing that you've got to pay really close attention to how you feel, how your bowels are. Are your stools getting smaller or thinner or changing caliber? And there's certain foods that we know it can contribute to colon cancer that they're going to want to avoid. Smoked and processed meats. We like to grill, and we like to grill the fat on our steaks and on our ribs and on our pork chops. That grilled fat causes, there's carcinogens in that. In our bacon and our sausage. If we're going to eat bacon and sausage, we should probably eat organic bacon and sausage that doesn't have nitrates, because that contributes to colon cancer. Smoking, number 3 risk factor for colon cancer. So there's some stuff they can do on the preventable side, because you can't prevent family history. But we can do diet, exercise, alcohol, smoking. There's some things that we can do on the preventive side that we need to max out when we have a family history of that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Awesome, and I want to thank you for calling and sharing with
You're
us.
welcome.
This has been very good information. I want to get back to. I do want to get back to some of the things we were talking about with regard to asking questions when you go to the doctors. Dr. Gary, and also the nurses on the line. What do you feel is a healthy weight for? Because one of the things before Dr. Pitt experienced her technical difficulty, she was talking about her weight, and she was talking about the fact that once she reached a certain age, it seemed she wasn't able to control her weight. And I know I hear a lot that weight in the middle section can lead to a lot of health problems. So what do you guys think about that? I'm sorry?
I heard something in the background, and I'm not sure if somebody else wants to chime in. It's Dr. Gary, and if they do, they certainly can. But, yes, so the obesity around the middle, sometimes they call it the brown fat. It does contribute to cancer, especially. So talking about breast cancer specifically, we know that if a woman or if a person drinks too much alcohol or eats too much of a certain type of food, alcohol especially gets converted to estrogen in our fat cells, and estrogen makes things grow. It's a growth factor. And so that's one of the reasons why having too much fat and or drinking too much alcohol or eating certain foods predisposes you or gives you higher risk for breast cancer. So obesity is a risk factor for a couple reasons. One, because of the estrogen. Two, because of inflammation. When we have too much fat in our bodies, it creates a pro-inflammatory state, and our bodies are inflamed. Like if you cut your hand and the cut is healing, but it's red and it's angry around the edges, that's inflammation. And when we have that in our body, our cells make mistakes. And one cellular mistake leads to 2, leads to 4, leads to 8, leads to 1,000,000. And that's all a cancer is. It's a group of cellular mistakes. And so having too much fat causes inflammation. And the medicine that doctors try to put us on sometimes, and I'm not a huge fan of it because my doctor tried to put me on it too. We can talk about statins in a second. Is the statin. It's an anti-inflammatory, cut the fat kind of cholesterol medication. And, can we do that through our diet? We sure can. I had to cut my bacon intake because I like bacon. I eat bacon twice a week on my surgery days because it makes me feel good. It gives me good breakfast, and I'm ready to roll. I can't do it twice a week. I can have it once a week, and I had to do some exercise and join a spin class and lose 20 pounds because I'm not going on a statin. I don't want that medication. I want to reduce it naturally.
Yeah.
And so we got to barter with ourselves. But, obesity is a risk factor, but just because of your weight, the number itself is not the most important thing because there's plenty of thin people who die of heart attacks every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't fall for that trap. Really talk to your doctor and get the data on what it is about your obesity or about your body weight. What is it that makes it a risk factor? What is your cholesterol? If your cholesterol is good, great. Then it's not so much about the number. And we can't always focus on the number because those numbers weren't designed for us.
That's right. And then on top of that, good stuff, doctor, I want to just say that we have to be mindful of the different ailments that go along with the obesity. Like she said, the high blood pressure that can be indicated by that, the diabetes that goes along with that. Many times when I was growing up, I always heard folks say, I just have a little bit of sugar. And it's not. It's like, really properly get an understanding of what is happening in your body. And, the things that are really destroying people around you. We look at the data, and all of it reflects that in every category that we are dying in droves far more than any other ethnicity in the country, or I would dare say in the world. So we have to make sure that we are well-versed and then willing to make the changes, Again, another biblical reference that is great for living is, if you are willing and obedient, then you can eat the good of the land. Translation, you have to do what's right. You have to know what's right, but you have to be willing to do it. And then you have to actually put it into action, And
I love that.
Of people make excuses for things because, like you said about the bacon, making you feel good. Honey, I had some bacon earlier this week, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I said to myself, but I can't do it every day because I know what doing it every day can lead to. And now that I'm 51 years old and I tell people I'm an old woman, but I look good, the reality is, I don't want to just look the part. I want to be healthy and fit. And no, I'm not at my ideal weight for me, but I have been doing a regimen that has worked really well for me in terms of helping me to understand balance and helping me to understand that better choices is far easier than going under a knife for me. And you have to decide what's going to work best for you. So I am proud of the caller who called in and was able to open up and share her testimony. And then, Nisi, I'm proud of you for all that you are doing about the commitment. It is just really, really encouraging to see that Black women are able to love themselves and begin to care for themselves and then share that. Because it's important to let somebody else know you've been through something or you're going through something, but that you're coming out of something as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So some of the things, I just want to sum up a little bit of what you guys just said and just give some information to our callers real quick. So some of the things that you can do to help reduce your cancer risk would be stay away from all forms of tobacco, get to and stay at a healthy weight, get moving with regular physical activity, eat healthy with plenty of fruits and vegetables, limit how much alcohol you drink if you drink at all, protect your skin, know yourself, your family history, and your risks, get regular checkups and cancer screening tests. And then I just want to say, for more on what you can do to help reduce your cancer risk and other questions about cancer, please visit www.cancer.org or call 1-800-227-2345. Is that good information or no?
That is fantastic information. It is. And it's so comprehensive because it covers all the different types of cancer. You're right. You know, the things that prevent heart disease and diabetes and chronic and preventable illnesses also prevent cancer. And so when I talk to patients, you know, with family history about their cancer risk, and they want to know, well, what can I do and what do I need? Do I need a pill? Do I need a this or that? It's the same common sense stuff that we know that prevents everything else. We just have to do it and be diligent with it. And it's as easy as, you know, exercising during your 1 hour program at night. I tell a lot of patients this. If you watch 1 hour TV and you don't skip the commercials, so no Hulu, no Netflix, you know, but you're watching Dancing with the Stars or American Idol, there's going to be about 20, 25 minutes of commercials. And every commercial break, 3 minutes, you can do arm exercises, you can do leg exercises, you can do some jumping jacks, you can get your legs, get your body moving. And by the end of 1 hour of TV per night, you will have gotten in 20 to 25 minutes of exercise without leaving your sofa.
Amen.
So there's room for us to do this. You don't have to join a gym and do expensive things. Get you some Dasani water bottles and start doing arm circles and treat them like weights. And if you can do 3 minutes during the commercials and watch a show and cry your eyes out at This Is Us, and the next commercial break, do something that's different. You know, like this is doable. It's so doable. We just have to do it and commit to it and be loving with ourselves and know that we're worth it because we are worth it.
Absolutely. And baby steps. Baby steps is where it's at. You don't have to come into this like you're going to be Jane Fonda, for lack of a better reference right now.
Absolutely.
With my age is the face I'm thinking of. But I'm just telling you, you don't have to come into it full force. You don't have to do a whole lot. It's the simplest of things. It's just a matter of making that decision and then implementing it. I'm telling you, it changes everything about you. And the better you feel about yourself, the more it'll manifest in everything else around you.
That's right.
It's just
right. Yeah, you're so right. And you know, as women of color, we got to remember racial and ethnic minorities have health that is worse overall than the health of white Americans. Our health disparities may stem from economic determinants, education or geography in neighborhood, even our environment and lower quality of care, inadequate access to care, inability to navigate the system, provider ignorance or bias, even some stress and a ton of other adverse circumstances that take a toll on our health. And, really understanding these barriers mean we also have to be deliberate and intentional in accessing every resource that is available to us, including free health clinics, free screening offered by local pharmacies or churches, and other community organizations that are committed to addressing health disparities.
Now, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to hear from our Dr. Pitts, but I just want to throw this in here. Research indicates that we black women we highly endorse that strong black woman stereotype, and we talked about it a lot tonight. And that perception is basically that we are naturally strong and resilient, self-contained, and self-sacrificing, all wonderful qualities, of course. And it provides us protection against the numerous stressors that we contend with every day. But I think this endorsement might limit our ability to cope in healthy ways, which compromises our physical and mental health. And with that being said, I just want us to go back and talk just a few minutes more before we're done tonight about ways to combat us from dying from preventable diseases. And I know we talked about the screenings and things of that nature, but I just want us to really hone in on the idea of community and connectedness and supporting each other and finding different ways that we can make going to the doctor and doing these healthy things more of a lifestyle choice. Anyone? Or was that enough?
I feel like communicating with your coworkers, the people who you're around with, your church members, encouraging them to go to the doctors. I mean, for people who are in the healthcare, you can even, offer to do like a workshop at your church where it's like a health workshop where you have people come in, ask questions, pass out pamphlets about different screenings, give the statistics of what's going on in our community, passing the word on to somebody who may pass it on to somebody else who may pass it on to somebody else, and just to get them to go to the doctors and get the things, get checked out, get pre-screened, get labs, talk to their doctor about questions, knowing your body.
Yeah, so what it sounds like you're saying is, yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Gary. I just was going to say, it just sounds like what you're saying is it pretty much starts with, with you. It starts within us, like to kind of, reach out to our, our community and, do our part in making sure that people understand the importance of, everything that we've talked about tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. I think that, and the basis for what we're doing tonight is trying to decrease those gaps in accessibility to services. So, what we like to do at the end of the show is always grab a key ring, so some keys from each one of the participants of the call that we could put up on the site for our listeners that would help them, to be able to access quality health care or a support system. So if each one of us could just give each one give one key as a takeaway from tonight's discussion for our listeners. Dr. Gary, do you have a key for
I can start, but I got two. And the two things are we have to be intentional and accountable. And the intentional part comes from this, because I'm guilty of it myself. We put things off. We got a lot of life going on. We got a lot of responsibilities. Everybody's busy. And health maintenance, health prevention, a lot of times involves somebody else. Take a colonoscopy, for example. Not only do you have to miss work to get a colonoscopy because you got to get sedation, but somebody has to take off and drive you there to get it. And so, how easy is it to let this thing slip through the cracks? Because it's not just you, but somebody else you got to inconvenience to get this thing done. And so we have to be intentional. We have to set guidelines and dates and put it down and make sure that we take every measure to make sure that we get these things done, or find substitutes like the Cologuard where you can submit a sample and you don't have to go and get your colonoscopy. There's other ways, but making sure that you put a date down and that you take that time off, that you close your calendar, that you actually put it on your calendar so your cell phone will ring 24 hours before the thing you're supposed to do. So that's the intentional part. But the accountability part of it says that I'm going to talk to my sister. I'm going to talk to my friend. I'm going to make sure that she knows that this is the date I'm supposed to get my colonoscopy. This is the date I'm supposed to get my mammogram. And I know her date too. And we're accountable for each other and to each other. So those are my two keys there, because they go hand in hand. Being intentional and not just letting the days go by, and making sure you're accountable to and for each other. And we're our sister's keepers.
That's right. There you go, Carolyn.
For me, the biggest thing I think is that family history. We really have to know exactly, what kind of history of diseases or illnesses that we have, and take heed to them. When we know them, we need to act on them, and we need to share that with our healthcare professionals so that they can better guide us in our own healthcare. If we don't tell them, they can't help us. So that's that's the key I'm taking away tonight.
Tracy?
Wow. I would say what my pastor always says: be honest with yourself and honest with the Lord about where you stand. And that's about everything. And you can do that about your health, and I think it's really important. And then once you have made that honest, the second key is, in the words of Ayanda, do your work. You have got to do the work. That goes along with
do your work.
You have to do the work. So be honest and then do the work.
Okay, great.
Step out of your comfort zone. Know your body and, do what you have to do. Don't be fearful.
Great. Oh, that's wonderful. And my key is just be a support to others. And because it's uncomfortable and people don't like to put other people out there, maybe offer. Have you had your colonoscopy? I'll take you. So, and then maybe they'll flip it on you, and they'll be able to help you out. So we have to, the same way, if someone needs a ride to the grocery store, someone needs a ride to the doctor. So we have to, start being more available to each other on that note. So I think those are some good keys. Did I hear Lauren? I didn't. All right. Well, I think that I just want to kind of share. We're going to wrap it up and help close this out. So I think that practice making good food choices and beverage choices. Making good choices give your body the fuel it needs. It'll help you stay full longer and improve your health. We need to commit to eating and drinking fewer foods and beverages and snacks that have solid fats or added sugars. We need to limit our salt, stay on track. Listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in tonight, and don't forget to join us next week as we take the journey down the road of our careers in discussions on women in leadership, shattering the glass ceiling. So Dr. Gary, Tracy, Dr. Pitts out there somewhere, Vicki, Carolyn, we want to thank you for contributing tonight to this great discussion, our caller who called in and our listeners who maybe didn't feel comfortable calling in, but they were listening. We hope that you got what you needed. Again, I implore you to hit www.cancer.org for more information on, what are the signs, what you need to do with regard to that. And with that, I would like to say good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for having me. Enjoyed myself. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you, Dr.
evening.
Gary.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.